counting to release key vehicle history to consumers. The South African Motor Body Repairs Association, SAMBRA, has come out to say that they're quite concerned about the lack of information available in the market to consumers with regards to the status of a second-hand vehicle. And they're asking that vehicle history be made available so that second-hand buyers will have more information ahead of making that decision, because we know it's a big purchase. It's a big purchase. And I'd love to hear from you about previous purchases that you have made, of the status of that second-hand vehicle. Were you met with rude, shocking discoveries about the history of that car later on? What do you wish you had known ahead of making that purchase of that car? 011-883-0702 could have saved a lot of headaches. Let's hear from Richard Green, the National Director at the South African Motor Body Repairs Association, on what they are asking for and the kind of problems or issues for consumers that this could help to prevent. But let's also hear from you on 011-883-0702, 31702 for your SMSs, and then your WhatsApps and your voice notes on 072-702-1702. If ever you've made a vehicle purchase, only to discover all sorts of shocking things about its status or what has been done to it previously. Richard, good afternoon.
Hello, Azania.
Hi, Richard.
To you and your listeners. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can. Thanks for joining us. So let's maybe really start with the current situation. What information is available to a buyer about a vehicle at the moment?
Well, if it's a vehicle that has been written off previously, then nothing is available. And that's simply put what we're asking insurers to make available. Because if it's the sequence of events is that if a vehicle is considered uneconomical to repair, which is when it is written off, the common term used by insurers, then it is sold by the insurer via a contract to a salvage yard, and in most cases as a Code 2 vehicle. Now, a Code 2 vehicle is a used vehicle, so it can be bought by anyone on the salvage yard auction, and they can do with that vehicle as they please, sell it back into the world of used cars as a used car Code 2 otherwise. So the problem is that if you and I, as unsuspecting consumers, go and look at a vehicle on a used car stand, we have no idea. There is absolutely no way that we can establish whether that vehicle has been previously written off or not. And so our request to the South African Insurance Association, to whom this information is sent by all South African insurers, is to make the VIN number, the VIN number, which is the unique number to every vehicle off the production line, available on an open website. Simply just the VIN number, because when you and I go onto a used car stand, the one thing we can see is the VIN number. It's either on the dashboard or it's on the license disc.
On the license
so we can just put that into an open website and find out whether it's been previously written off or not, and then make an informed decision about whether we still want to buy the vehicle or not.
Yes.
Just that.
Yeah, we're taking calls, Richard, because this has been a problem in the past. And we're taking calls and your WhatsApps 072-702-1702. So let's just take a listen, because this does have consequences. We'll explore some of those, but here's a voice note.
Hi, as I recently had a friend of mine tell me that his boss was arrested after he purchased a second-hand vehicle. They had not checked to see whether the vehicle had been stolen, but it was involved in a heist, and they were locked up on a Friday evening, spent a frightful night in the cell, and were released. There were two people in the car. They arrested both, and they were released the next day on 15,000 rands bail, which is shocking, because people who kill people get out on 1,000 rands bail. So there's something seriously wrong with our justice system.
Sure, that's shocking. So obviously he got the second-hand car only to find when police stopped him that it had been involved in a criminal activity historically. So there are serious consequences. I mean, to have to fork out 15,000 rand just to secure bail is quite onerous. So what are the consequences to a buyer if you end up with a car with such a problematic history?
Well, unfortunately, it's in most cases far worse than 15,000 rand, because the vehicle has had damage that insurers consider uneconomical. In other words, it's a serious impact accident, and the cost of repairing it within the normal environment of motor body repair has been considered uneconomical. So the question, of course, is how can it suddenly become economical to repair it? And the only way that you can repair it is if you use poor standards, poor quality of parts, or simply don't repair something. I mean, we have found things like foam rubber underneath the cover of an airbag on the steering wheel. So we've got very unscrupulous people operating out there, Azania, and so people will buy the car, and I'll just give you an example of loss of value. They'll buy the car, finance it through one of the banks at the normal market value, and then find out that it's been written off, or somehow find out that there is serious damage to the chassis or some other internals of the car, and the market value of that vehicle can drop by 50 or 60%. So you've got a finance value of, let's say, 100 grand, and the vehicle is valued at 50. Anybody can work out what kind of problems you have after that.
Yes. So this real value that you speak of, is this upon inspection or further investigation of how that car has been rebuilt?
So the market value is normally something between trade and retail, which are values that are submitted commonly by used car dealers into a system that maintains that information. So it's accessed by anybody who has access to that system, and let's say it's midway between trade and retail. In these cases where the vehicles are sold as prior written-off vehicles and fully repaired, they might even be sold at a slightly beneficial price, but so it won't be far off that. But in essence, the vehicle shouldn't even be on the road. So, let's say you finance, as I said earlier, now you get to the end of your period of finance, let's say you've paid the car off, and you find out that it's a prior written-off vehicle. I mean, how do you not disclose that to the next purchaser, who you're selling it to? So it's a massive issue, and it can be quite simply resolved, because we have to give this information to the purchasing client so that they can make this informed decision. And withholding that information, in my view, makes the insurers liable. It really is something that can be done, and for some reason they just continue to refuse to do so.
Let's hear from Sipho in Boksburg. Hi, Sipho.
Hi, Azania. Hi, the guest. I think it would be a damn good idea. I don't know why the insurance companies haven't done this before, because this has very serious ramifications to the insurance company. If a car is not supposed to be on the road and it's been repaired in the backyard and put on the road, now how is that car can be? How does that car get insured? And at what price? Because then it's so dangerous. It shouldn't be on the road, and this thing should have been done long ago. In fact, it's obligatory for them to do this, because you as the public need to know what you're buying, and the insurance company also needs to know what they're insuring. Now, if they're not making this information available, basically we don't know what sort of, the reason why they have so many accidents is probably this the very same reason.
Yeah, as you say, this should have been done a long time ago, because look at the consequences that it's brought about. So you also have a suggestion on VIN numbers, Sipho?
Yeah, absolutely. Those VIN numbers should be published on a website, on an open website, with the remarks that say cars have been written off, or either stolen and recovered, or rebuilt, so that you can make that informed decision. So are the insurance companies also able to make that informed decision whether they want to insure that car or not? Because there are cars that are out there that shouldn't have been insured in the first place, or shall I say, they shouldn't be on the road at all.
Eyes wide open. You can make that decision eyes wide open.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for that call, Sipho. Sipho used the word obligatory, Richard. From this picture that you've painted, doesn't sound like anybody has the obligation or responsibility, in fact, to tell you this history. What is the status there?
I'm sorry, the last bit I didn't hear you. The obligation on the part of the insurer, were you saying, Azania?
Saying Sipho used the word that it's obligatory for this information to be shared, but the situation suggests that that's not the case. What is the status, or the at the moment, what is the status around the responsibility that dealers carry, that insurers carry around the history of a car in terms of what they share?
Well, look, I think we're working in a very digital age. So I think that we have to make or place the obligation at the insurer's doors, because that's where it starts. Now, what is currently happening is the insurers say that they write the vehicle off as uneconomical repair. They have a sale agreement with a salvage yard. And basically what they're doing is they're wiping their hands of that vehicle once they've sold it to the salvage yard. Now, I don't think that's correct. I don't think it's responsible. So what has to happen is they have to publish those VIN numbers, or alternatively code the vehicle as a code 3. And they will have, I'm sure that you're going to give them the right of response, and I'd love to hear that interview. But the fact of the matter is that it should be scrapped. It should be recoded as a code 3 that is commonly recognized as a scrapped vehicle. And they should, perhaps use them because a vehicle can have a front end and there can be nothing wrong with the back end. So you can use the boot lid and all the rear components. They should be harvesting those parts and perhaps using them in the repair process. Getting creative about the circumstance. At the moment, all they're doing is they're saying, well, it's not our problem, and we just, steadfastly refusing to make the information available. I'm on record saying that it's going to be public pressure that will eventually force them to do so, because people like Sipho are exposed if they can't have access to that information.
Yeah, we've got.
And the exposure is not just small. I mean, it's massive fiscal loss potentially.
Yeah,
and safety. A lot of these, in the latest investigation, the dealer considered the vehicle, and his words were, a coffin on wheels. So it's not just a simple problem. It's something that can cause death, in a secondary accident. And the irony, Azania, is that insurers reinsure these vehicles. I have a recent one where the bank, as you are aware, banks often also have insurance houses, and the same bank and its insurer refinanced and insured a severely written off vehicle. So we've got to stop it at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the answer to the problem.
Let's hear from Lesego in Four Ways. Lesego, you also want to comment on second-hand vehicles and the information available about them?
Yes, I think she just took the words out of my mouth. I think that it's the insurers that actually create the secondary market. Because if they didn't put those cars up for sale as vehicles for scrap, and they're saying they're economically unrepairable, they should actually be destroying those cars such that they can't find their way back onto the market. That's the first thing. The second thing is the point is just made again with the banks refinancing those cars and the insurers. I think the people who come short here are the consumers, because now your car is involved in an accident and the insurer says, well, sorry, because substandard repair work that was done to your car, but you wouldn't have known. You picked up this car from some dealership in Jew Street. So I think I have to agree that the fault lies squarely with the insurers and the banks, because they do actually have that information and they should be sharing it. I fully agree with the gentleman.
Yeah. So thank you for that call. Richard, how does this then also get these cars, enable the use of these vehicles by criminal syndicates?
Well, they go and they purchase the vehicle at the salvage yard. Obviously, all criminals are well informed, as we know. So they know what the values, or which vehicles, carry a reasonably good market value. So they will target those, the Toyota Buckies of the world, etc. But this happens to all manner of vehicles. And then they have contacts within the motor body repair industry, or they themselves have backyard shops attached to their used car dealerships. and they just patch it together. I've seen the most horrific welding of chassis components, it looks like grains knitting, and would implode on a serious impact, serious impact. So it's guys who are just chasing the buck. They have absolutely no regard for the safety of the people that they're selling the vehicles to. One recent used car dealer asked the client to bring the car back so that they could resell it and then reimburse her. We're not dealing with responsible people here, or people who in any way care about the safety of me and our families. They just are willing to do whatever it takes to sell you a car. And just remember, a car can look pretty from the outside because we can paint the panels and make them look good. So on appearance, it looks fine, but it's what's underneath that really can cause the major issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just share some of the voice notes and the WhatsApps, because this is an extensive experience that has happened to a number of our listeners from what I can gather. This one says, I bought a vehicle from a dealer, and this is from a dealer in a network. And a month after buying the vehicle, the DSG gearbox packed up. And upon investigation, I found that the car had a serious front crash. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed with the ombudsman or the dealer because they said I had signed. I spent 270,000 Rand, and after 2 years, I was offered 80,000 Rand for the vehicle because of the accident damage. Quite an example of the typical losses that consumers end up suffering. We have some of your voice notes. Let's take a listen.
Hi, Azania, MJ in Pretoria. See, about second-hand cars, with the mechanical part, the engine, and so on, that I'm not much worried about, because one can always get the history from the dealership. But what I'm always worried about, always skeptical about, is the panel beating stuff, because a lot of people rely on just looking at the car and see if the paints match. But not all of us are able to catch that. If there can be a way of getting the truth, if the car was ever in an accident, documented evidence, I think that would be better. Thanks.
Absolutely. This one doesn't seem to be coming through, Richard. So what do our listeners do? As you said, this can change as a result of public pressure.
Look, I think I think they should first of all take care of themselves. Number one, when you're doing business or buying a used car, buy it from somebody who has something to lose, and by that I mean from a branded dealership. I would. That's simply, the first line of defense, because they have something to lose. So that if you find something untoward with the vehicle, after the fact, you can normally go back to a responsible dealer and get your money back, because they would be concerned about losing, brand value. But more importantly, what I'd like to mention, Azania, is that we rely on vehicle inspection reports from the likes of the AA and DECRA, and perhaps even a dealer. Now, dealers, DECRA, and AA are not motor body repairers. So motor body repair is a very, very specific industry. So in my view, if I was buying a used car and I wasn't in the position I am, of knowledge in terms of what happens in the industry, I would ask that goes to a SAMBRA member, or a motor body repairer that is, highly skilled and who can put it up on a lift and inspect it properly. And as I always said, say to the guys that phone in to me directly, if the seller, the used car dealer wanting to sell the vehicle to you, does not want to allow you to take the car to a SAMBRA member to check the motor body repair, then walk away, because they've got something to hide.
They've got something to hide, yeah. Richard, we're out of time, but thank you for raising this concern, and hopefully the pressure that you're trying to bring will bear some sort of fruit, because it doesn't sound like there's anything that would prohibit this. It's simple information about the VIN number and just a brief description of what kind of history this vehicle has. That's Richard Green, Thank you, Richard. The National Director at the South African Motor Body Repairers Association, demanding that more information be issued about a car, and they're making this appeal to the South African Insurance Association.